Hi, good evening, everyone. Hope you guys have had a wonderful IIJS so far, the first virtual IIJS, and it's great to have you guys here. We have a very interesting and important guest today as a speaker, David Kelly, who's the CEO of Natural Diamond Council. I'll just give you a little bit of a background on what how David has come around and become part of the NDC. He was earlier with Watches of Switzerland, where he oversaw the marketing launch of Watches of Switzerland into the US. Prior to this, he spent 15 years with Ralph Lauren, initially in Geneva and then later in New York, where he led their global marketing and advertising teams across the full portfolio of brands and businesses. David joined the NDC in December 2019 and is now based in New York. David has actually also, myself and David have worked together, me on behalf of the GJPC and David with the NDC. And before I go into questions, I must congratulate David on a fantastic campaign that the NDC has launched with a brand new ambassador and a brand new look. It's really exciting and a fresh outlook. So welcome, David. Welcome to IIJS, and we're looking forward to having this session with you.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate that everyone's busy, and so it's great speaking to you. Thank you very much for the introduction, Milan. It's greatly appreciated. I think I was in my second week in my role when I was in Mumbai. I met you and all of the team at the GJPC for the first time. So yes, my first couple of weeks I was there. I was also there more recently than I've been in my New York office, because I was with you back in the early March.
Correct.
Just as the pandemic was starting, and by the time I got back to New York was closed, and I've been holed up in this study ever since. So it's been the most unusual journeys. Nearly all of my time with the NDC has been at this desk in this office at home. And yet, oddly enough, we seem to have got a huge amount done in that time, a lot of which we'll talk about today. But I feel like I know you all really well because we spend so much time talking by Zoom. And probably I know you better because we've been doing Zoom calls than because we've been doing phone calls. So through this crazy year, I actually feel like I've got to know you much better and much quicker than I would have done otherwise. Bizarre, I know, but that is 20 summed up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we have consistent backgrounds, and that's how we recognize our Zoom friends. And hopefully we'll kind of be meeting in person pretty soon. So anyway, we'll roll with the questions. David, there's a lot of interest in obviously what the Natural Diamond Council is doing. So the Diamond Producers Association was the earlier avatar of the NDC. And, how has this, journey been so far for you? I mean, the whole move from being DPA to NDC, and there's a little bit of a shift in the image as well. So how has it been so far?
I would say very quick. And with the first thing I would say, it was obviously before I came into this role and joined the then DPA in December. I'd been speaking with the board at the DPA for a period of time. So clearly I got a sense of the industry, I got a sense of what the role is and an opinion on how to do it. And I think it was really interesting because when I met with you in December, I think everything you were telling me, I completely agreed with. And it was interesting, having never met you all before, being in a country that I'd never been to before, that you were very intuitive, you personally and as a group, very intuitive as about what's right and what's wrong. And I was very aligned with you all. And I think the only thing, and I think I said to you at the time, I think the only thing that I hadn't appreciated was the urgency that was required from all this. Because even pre-pandemic, the situation of the industry required a very, very quick response from us. And so, yes, it's been a quick journey, and it's been very exciting. I believe if you're going to do something well and passionately, you've got to do it while the energy is there, and so it's been I hope there's been a bit of fun for the team, although I would think if you spoke to teams, they would say it's been hard work, long hours, etc. But it's been a good journey, and I think it's just I would just want to share a couple of things with you, Milan, because I think it's
Sure.
just in case people haven't seen this, and I hope these share. This is, if I start first with our website, because I don't know if all of our audience has seen our website. This is what we launched back in June time. So this was the first iteration of the new Natural Diamond Council and our consumer name, which is Only Natural Diamonds. And the first thing that we did is to decide between us that we're not selling product directly. We're not a retailer. We're not a brand in the traditional sense. So what are we? And with Risha and all of our global leadership team, the conclusion was we should be an authority. We should be a publisher. We should be the content. There's so much amazing storytelling in our industry that we'll talk about later on, that we should be the publisher for that content. And we've been very, very fortunate. This is the website that we launched. It has become a hub for wonderful contributors all around the world. And it just creates, the strength of it attracts people that want to tell their stories on here. And so this is what we do 365 days of the year. So I know traditionally, and we'll talk a bit about the campaign later, I know that traditionally people think in campaigns and specific periods of time, but it's not how the consumer's working these days. The consumer is constantly digesting materials and content. They're shopping 365 days of the year. So this is how we make sure that we are speaking to them about the values of natural diamonds all through the year. So that's our website. And then also what we do is drive traffic to the website through the social media platforms. And again, you see a snapshot of our Instagram in India. And what's really important, it looks beautiful, but when you start looking at the engagement we get here, so we're getting like 250,000 views on videos. In some cases, we're getting 1 million views on videos. So this isn't just a platform for looking amazing. This is genuinely a huge engagement level for consumers in India. And the website is performing incredibly well. We're getting currently around 40,000 visits a day into our website, and that's going to grow considerably over time. So all in, this first phase of what we launched as the Natural Diamond Council was really to be the masters on the digital platforms. And because that's where our audience is digesting this message. And that's what when we laid out the vision back in January and February, and then I think you were probably the first to see the new vision when I was with you in March. I think it's come to fruition even better than we hoped it to be in the very short time that we had. So a very long answer to a very short question, but so far it's been a very positive response, and we're delighted at just how big the engagement is by consumers in our new entity.
No, I mean, listen, even when I go through the new website and the Instagram pages, I mean, it's thoroughly engaging. The content is just really, really relevant. So it's like I mentioned to you before in our conversations, it's just bang on the money. What kind of research did you do prior to the rebranding? Any specific findings that you think are worthy of sharing with retailers in India and manufacturers?
Yes, I mean we did research the campaign, and I'll come on to that in just a moment. We didn't research the digital platforms, and the reason being that in the world of digital, you can assess and adapt very quickly the performance and your content on the site. So we started out by saying, look, what is best practice? What are the other websites? What are the other entities that we think we are like? And in completely different industries, like Architectural Digest, like fashion, all sorts of tourism, all sorts of different industries that are content strong and are brand and retailer agnostic. And said, okay, let's take best practice from them, because that will make us 90 to 95% right. And then from there, we read the metrics about how it's performing, and we read the metrics like retailers read sales. Every day we are meeting and discussing the performance of all of our content on the website, all of the social media content, and we continually adapt and improve that. So the digital world, provided you read the data and respond to the data quickly, you can optimize in a very, very quick way. In terms of the campaign, we researched the campaign, and it was a very interesting discussion that we had internally, because where we had been was a very localized campaign, looking at insights specifically into Indian consumer behavior. But actually what we felt is that looking at the market for luxury is that this audience is much more inspired by internationalism, by innovation, by product newness. And they want to see new things that are happening in the world, as opposed to being re-fed an idea, an image that is their parents, and what their parents would have seen. So we did research our campaign, as I said, which we'll talk about later on, but we're absolutely delighted that what we believe to be true got a huge response from research saying, this is what we want to see. We want to see newness. We want to see international. We want to be global. We want to see outside of what we're traditionally being presented. So very encouraging. Of course, the campaign's live in the market, and we're assessing now exactly the response rates on everything that we're doing.
Excellent. So, since we are discussing the new customer or the new, viewer that consumes all the media that we're putting out, this audience, for them, sustainability and respect for nature have acquired, new significance. And specifically post-COVID, it's even become more, kind of amplified. So how is NDC making sure that its strategies are in sync with this rising sentiment?
But I think probably the most obvious one is that we added the word natural into our name. So if that isn't everything, then I don't know what is. But to answer the question more fully, is you're absolutely right. Sustainability, social values, ethics of what you do and what you stand for has been getting stronger and stronger, particularly in luxury goods, for at least 5 years. But that has accelerated considerably, given the fact that we are now in the midst of a health crisis that has caused such devastation to people's lives, and is quite clearly something outside of the human control. And that's the first time in our generation that's happened. So undoubtedly, everybody is now much more respectful and concerned about the impact of the planet, of health, and they've seen the power of it. In terms of how that affects us, is that the strength of what we're doing now is it enables us to present so many different stories to the consumer. So when I showed you the website earlier on, all of that content, all of that narrative, we can tell every day of the year. Whereas when you do an advertising campaign, you've pretty much got to focus on one value or asset of what you're doing. But now with what we've got, we have the platform to be able to tell all those stories. And without the platform and the audience, you're nothing. We can talk amongst ourselves about what we're doing and doesn't it look great. But in reality, we have to ask ourselves, do we have a platform to do it? And do we have the right number of people coming to that platform to digest the information? And if we're not there already, I think we're pretty close to it. And then we have a lot more coming down the line that will help develop it even further. But actually, and the other thing I would say, Milan, is that this industry is incredible. My background is predominantly in the fashion industry. And one thing that surprised and amazed me when I came into it was the work that is done throughout the supply chain, to support local communities, to support sustainability. There aren't many industries that do what we do with the genuine integrity that we do it with. And so it's our job to communicate that to the consumer, and I hope that we're doing that in a good way.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right on that one. Coming to the campaign, which obviously has generated huge excitement, and the new campaign for the tagline for moments like no other. You want to tell us more about this campaign and run us through what the response has been, and
Yes, I mean, if I show the campaign first, and I hope this runs okay on this platform, just to remind everyone what it is that we're talking about. This is our first campaign under the Natural Diamond Council, and with our consumer line of being only natural diamonds. We were delighted that we managed to take on Anna de Armas, who as our celebrity in the campaign. Anna is a rising star in Hollywood. She was a Golden Globe nominee for her lead role in Knives Out. And she's getting a lot of buzz in Hollywood at the moment, and probably mostly because the continually delayed. She's the next Bond girl. She's playing the role of Paloma in the next Bond movie, whenever that comes out. I think it was due out last April. It was due in November, and now we're talking about April of next year. She's also going to be the lead in a movie called Blonde. It's a biopic about Marilyn Monroe, so she's playing the role of Marilyn Monroe in there. So clearly she's beautiful. She's got amazing integrity. She constantly asks us to understand more about the industry. She's playing roles that are very synonymous with diamonds, Bond girl, Marilyn Monroe, etc. So she's a perfect ambassador for our industry. And so with that, I'll just remind you of the campaign. Sorry,
True connection. True connection changes you. It inspires you to dare greatly, to love fearlessly, to soar. Our moments, our stories, they belong to us. For moments like no other.
That's the campaign. Really, we wanted the campaign to be different from what people have seen before and be it more synonymous with the luxury world, the emotional world, the diamond dream that the messaging that we're giving. We wanted it to be much more about not just one particular occasion, but celebrating multiple moments, particularly in her life, and whether that be on her own, whether it be relationship with friends or family or a romantic relationship. We wanted it to celebrate diamonds and diamond jewelry in total, rather than being a specific diamond piece that's celebrated. And we really wanted to celebrate the values. For me, one of the big insights when I came into the industry is that we are unique. We are there's no other luxury good that has the meaning that diamonds and diamond jewelry has, that lasts with her for a lifetime. And in some cases gets passed on through generations and has that same meaning through many lifetimes. So for us, we wanted to celebrate the moments that diamonds stand for. The concept behind the campaign was with us before the pandemic really struck. But ironically, with the pandemic, it's made those moments and those values even more important in the world. So again, we'll talk a bit later, but for me, it's why diamonds and diamond jewelry is resonating with the consumer so strongly at the moment. And whilst it's not the right time to say, we have been fortunate in terms of timing alone, we've been fortunate that the timing of the Natural Diamond Council launch and the new campaign seems to be connecting very, very strongly with consumer sentiment at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. I think this whole pandemic situation has kind of helped with the tagline that you guys have. Any specific plans for the festive season in the markets that we're talking about, say India, China, US, and any specific plans for next year that you want to kind of talk about at this point?
Sure. So in terms of plans for the holiday season, obviously the holiday season is just starting in India. So in terms of global, it's India is the first in the holiday season. We are obviously, this happens to coincide with the launch of the campaign that we've got. So it happens to be when we're investing pretty much all of our money for the year. We didn't invest very much money in the first half of the year. Two reasons. One is we knew we were changing our whole positioning, our name and our entity. And second, because with the pandemic, we didn't want to be spending money when the world was closed. So we are pretty much spending all of our annual budget through this festive season with the meshing that we've got. I know cricket is big in India. I'm obviously English. I love cricket as well. So it's nice to be able to talk cricket with somebody. When you're in America, the word cricket doesn't mean anything. So cricket is something I could talk to you all about at length on. But we're delighted that we've been able to have the campaign, as part of the IPL, and that's given us very high visibility through there. We're also planning to continue our partnership with India's largest fashion week, which is the Lakme Fashion Week, which is exciting as well. So we have a lot going on, the social media, all the postings on there, the boosting. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty high energy at the moment, and it's the time when we are most active in the Indian market specifically. As we then get into other holiday markets around the world, again, the US, we have the campaign live in the market now, and we're ramping that up as we get through to the holiday season, kind of mid to end December. For everyone, holiday and festive seasons, it is the strangest of years. It's very difficult to predict exactly the sentiment, but we do think that gifting will be very important as part of it. Irrespective of whether people can get together, whether people can travel, the one thing that people will be able to do is gifting. And we believe that diamond jewelry is going to play a major part in that gifting. And then after that, we get into China, Chinese New Year, etc. And again, I think everyone's aware that China probably reacted quicker and tougher on the pandemic, and therefore reopen sooner. And again, everything that we're seeing coming out of China is that there's a very positive performance of diamonds and diamond jewelry in that market. So I think, Milan, me by now, I'm the optimist in our industry. I think there's so much potential for it. That's now being seen, particularly in the US and China. There are, I don't want to go overboard because it can become, the pandemic could come back. But at the moment we're seeing very positive news, and I believe that, God willing, then that will continue.
So let's assume that everything goes, say the worst is over and we're looking at, a very positive year ahead. Anything in the next year that NDC's got lined up that you can share for next year? Any kind of exciting, because there's so much that can be done. So just if there's anything you want to kind of share.
Yes, there is new things coming up, Milan. I know you're always trying to get that scoop on the news before everybody else. I haven't shared it with our own internal teams yet, so which I do this week. But you can be assured that we're not going to slow down in terms of our energy or our commitment to this industry. We are very aware that this is a huge industry with tens of millions of employees, tens of millions more people who depend on this industry. So rest assured that we take our responsibility very, very strongly, and recognize the importance and urgency of what we do. So rest assured the energy won't slow down. You'll be seeing many major new things happening next year as you've seen this year. I just can't share them with you today.
All right, we'll wait for some more time. So again, post this pandemic, is there any specific learning for the trade that, for the members of our trade, that you think they should kind of take home, inculcate anything new in their businesses post this situation? Any specific changes that they should make to the way they operate?
Yes, and I mean, I have little experience in retail, so I certainly don't want to take on the mantle of preaching to retailers and people in the industry. All I can say is what we see as being trends in the industry and those that we think will continue. So obviously the big difference has been the change to digital. And I think we all know, the elephant in the room, even before the pandemic, is that our industry, the strength of our industry is that it's very traditional. The values that go into it, the personal service, the clienteling, that's all the strength of being a traditional industry. And we don't want to lose that. But also the consumer is changing and they are adopting digital in a big way, both from how they make decisions, how they search for things, what influences them, and then how they shop. And so the world of digital is transformative, and the pandemic has accelerated that. What has happened during 6 months would probably have taken this industry 5 or 6 years to do. And a degree of that won't suddenly stop after the pandemic. That consumer will stay in the digital environment. I still believe they will come in. They will very nearly all the time will come into retailers to purchase. I think 100% of the time in India. I think even in America, where people are much happier buying online expensive items, consumers will still want to go back to bricks and mortar stores to make that transaction. And interestingly, here in the US, there are a number of online retailers who are announcing they're opening retail stores for exactly that reason. So we're talking on one hand about bricks and mortar stores moving to digital. We've also got the situation with digital moving to bricks and mortar. And outside of our industry, look at Apple. Apple should be all digital. The strength of Apple is that in fact it's a bricks and mortar retailer. So it will always be a hybrid, but how the consumer researches, understands what you're doing, we need to be stronger in the digital environment. And I think that's a big thing that we collectively need to get our heads around, and how we work remotely with people and say, okay, now's the time to come in. But I think that remote client relationship is going to be something that we're going to have to develop and will continue after the pandemic.
I mean, since you are mentioning this online, offline, brick and mortar versus e-commerce model, our product, jewelry, essentially is a something that needs to be touched, felt. It's a very it's an emotional product. So right, a customer would want to kind of at all times be able to see it, touch it, feel it, wear it. With this pandemic, there's this new, obviously, reservation for where people resist walking into a store, and even more resistant to kind of wanting to touch something. So when stores reopen, is there something that retailers need to worry about? Is this something that should concern us, all of us?
Yeah, I think less so than a lot of other industries, because our industry is generally low traffic and high value. It's not like if you're a fast fashion retailer and stores are crowded with people, they're trying on, nobody knows what they've tried on. I think that is a very tough business to be in. Is high traffic, high touch, low sales professional engagements kind of retail. I think where we benefit from is being much lower in traffic and much higher value. Also that versus any other retail, we are in a very high personal service. So the sales professionals can clean, can put to one side product that's been touched. And everything that I've seen from retailers all around the world is that we are being very, very efficient, very professional in terms of the health and safety of our clients. And because we're able to do that. And so I think the consumer will have more trust and confidence in jewelers and jewelry retailers than they will have in pretty much any other form of retail. So no, it doesn't worry me, provided we continue what we're currently doing, which is to be be reassuring to the consumer, to be healthy, to be safe, and to put our clients first. And if that continues, I worry less about our industry than I do about many other retail industries.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, what you're saying makes absolute sense. You generally never see a jewelry store which is flooded with people. So it's on that front, yeah, certainly. And most retailers that I have also interacted with have been extremely responsible and conscious about sanitization and hygiene. Everyone in our industry, for that.
Yeah.
The US currently, when we're speaking of retail, is probably the most active globally. I mean, sales have been, quite good. And as we approach the holiday season, it seems like it's going to be very healthy. What, according to you, is the current state of the US market, and how do you see it through the season?
Yes, I mean the US market clearly got massively hit back in March, April, and partly into May, where consumers, for obvious reasons, weren't thinking about retail, weren't thinking about shopping. They had other things to think about. But pretty soon after that period of time, digital online e-commerce retailers were getting a significant business. A lot of the deficit that was happening in March, April was coming back in May, June in digital retailers. And then really as retail stores opened, so it was coming back strongly in kind of July and August time. And everything that we're seeing in through September is pretty much the same. So kind of all the theory that we've always talked about is that we will be there for consumers. They will want diamond jewelry is coming through very strongly. And at the moment, I think, a touch wood, I can't see any reason why that would stop this side of the holiday. We are about to go into a big shopping period. We do have the Thanksgiving period, Black Friday, and the holiday season, and the consumer. And I, as you said earlier on, I live in the US now, and so I can sense this frustration that people want to spend money, and I would quantify that with those that have jobs. In the US, there's going to be a big divide between those that have jobs, that have the reassurance of having money. My view is they want to spend money. They want to escape from this lockdown. But that's obviously on the other side of that. There are those that either don't have jobs or are worried about their jobs, and that will be more challenging. So it's from an economy point of view, as we all know, it's going to be tough. But I still have confidence that for those that have the reassurance of employment, they will want to go out through the holiday period and spend money. And we believe on diamond jewelry.
Yeah, and there's early indications of that already. So I think you're right. The emergence of brands, branding, and that entire experience that everyone keeps talking about. Can you what is your opinion on going forward? Because typically jewelry, there were very few brands in the jewelry business. Most of it was mom and pop, unbranded. Now we're seeing this kind of momentum where brands are being developed in different countries, different geographies, for different demographics, different psychographics. What is your kind of opinion on how important branding and brands are now in our business, and how they can kind of take everyone along with them?
Yeah. So I think just to clarify the term branding, because branding isn't a label, it isn't a name. It's having a product with a name, and that name is associated with values, whether they be social values, emotional values, dream values. That's what for me a brand is. If you go outside our industry, I think we can all ask ourselves, how many products do we buy that aren't branded? How many times are we buying branded products? And if you then say, look, in the market over $100, how often do we buy a product that is unbranded? So clearly the consumer buys products not only on the functional benefits, but on the emotional benefits and the values. So I would say, as a consumer in total, brand and values is critical to everything that we do. As you say, we are in a very, very unusual industry, and as much as we don't have a high penetration of brands of jewelry. And that's why we have the Natural Diamond Council, because it's our role to build that value in diamond jewelry in total, such that the consumer understands the emotional values and the social values of the product they're buying. So I know this is getting quite technical, etc. So, and then in terms of product brands, yes, there's a lot of new brands that are coming up, but I would differentiate between those brands that are investing in building that equity and those that are putting a name or a label on a product, because a name or a label on a product isn't really a brand, in as much as if it doesn't mean anything to the consumer, it's not a brand per se. So from my perspective, one of our big challenges in industry is how do we build more investment in the brand values of what we do. We are very fortunate that as the Natural Diamond Council, even at this time of crisis for our members, which are the mining companies, they have protected the resources that are going into the Natural Diamond Council, and for that we're very thankful. But going forward into next year is how do we invest more money as an industry into building our industry as a brand, whether that be individual brands or diamond jewelry as a total, because this industry has got so much potential. It's got so much potential, but we have to be in a position to invest in building the brand of diamond jewelry and brands within diamond jewelry in total.
So what I'm hearing you say pretty much is, with NDC's new, in its new avatar, and with the way of promoting the natural values of a diamond, it is a great time for someone who is actually also thinking of building a brand to kind of ride with these values and create their own story and kind of, build something really important. And there is a market for it. There is room for new stories and new brands to kind of surface.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone that's doing that to say, okay, what is the uniqueness about my brand? What am I doing that's unique? If it's generic product with a label on it, that isn't going to be successful as a brand. So I think there is so much space within the world of diamond jewelry. There's so much great innovation going on, and that innovation isn't getting its voice. And I hope we can help with that, but we can't do the whole job. I think product innovation is critical, storytelling is critical, and the more of that happens in our industry, the better for our industry. So again, anyone that wants support on that, has things they want us to talk about, as we said right at the start, we are a platform to be able to celebrate all the great things in our industry, and we'd be more than happy to help anyone that is starting, developing, that has innovation and newness that we can talk about.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's actually great for businesses, particularly in India, if they can kind of work closely with your team here and use your platform. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it's difficult because I can't travel at the moment. But I think as soon as travel opens up, the bad news for you is that as soon as travel opens up, I'll be back with you. But it would be great to kind of use the time that we've got together to see how we can help people, help retailers and manufacturers in India to develop their businesses. And I'm more than happy to work with the GJEPC and everybody else to understand the best way that we can help with that.
Yeah, because if branding has huge scope in our business, then branding in India has even bigger scope. I mean, in the sense, we're still in that sense kind of developing as a consumer market. So there's huge opportunities here.
Yeah, and it's interesting because actually the luxury brands have found India the most difficult market to penetrate into. But actually, I think that's changing now. As I said, with the campaign, what we found is the consumer does want to look. The younger female audience does want to look more internationally, and so you're starting to see international brands penetrate into India. And that's great for international brands, but it's also good for local brands because it tells you that the consumer wants to understand the values of a brand, wants to see the product. There's also great potential for brands, Indian brands, to penetrate into other markets around the world. We're now global. We found that actually, and I didn't say it earlier on and should have done, is that the content that we are producing in India for our India website, we also use on our international websites. And we're getting great engagement with Indian cultural content on our global websites, particularly in the US. So what it tells you is that this consumer wants the influences of being global. And I think that's a great opportunity for our industry and for Indian manufacturers particularly as to how to develop themselves, develop a brand equity that enables them to create strong businesses all around the world.
Yeah. So, moving on, authenticity. This has been something that, when you came down in Feb, we had this, casual conversation in the GJPC office, and authenticity was something that we were talking about. And then gradually through all our conversations and on several other occasions, authenticity is something that you have mentioned several times. What do you think that word has in terms of relevance for our trade today at different levels, in terms of the product, in terms of the communication, in terms of, how we approach the consumer? Authenticity seems to be very relevant. You want to kind of,
Yeah. So authenticity means everything. In as much as because the consumer can research a brand, a product, pretty much everything about what they're buying, they can very quickly see through something if it's fake. And I'm talking about the messaging here. So that if you're just pretending to have social values, if you're just pretending to have craftsmanship, the consumer can discover that really, really quickly and realize that's not the case. We are in a very fortunate industry. We have so much the craftsmanship, the authenticity of what we do, the history of where it's come from, the very fact that natural diamonds have taken billions of years to form in the earth. That is something that the consumer wants. They don't want their own personal brands. How they see themselves is they want to see themselves as being authentic. So they respond to and react to and purchase categories, products, brands that have that same authenticity. So we have authenticity. Everything we do is authentic in our industry. I haven't yet come across anything that I feel is done without integrity. And so again, for us, it's part of our messaging to the consumer is those values and what we stand for.
Yeah, I agree. There are a lot of young people coming into this business. On several occasions, we hear conversations about how the diamond business doesn't have a great future. It's kind of slowing down and not really always positive, the conversation. And, we all have our next gen probably getting ready to come into this business. Do you think the diamond business is, kind of at a point where we can see the end, or do you think this is the start of something new? How do you foresee,
I had, when I came into this job, I was very excited about the diamonds and diamond jewelry. I could see so much opportunity for it, and actually, having been here kind of 10 months now, I think there's opportunity everywhere. This industry, if we get it right, and I'll talk more about that in just a moment, but our industry, if you look at the last 14 years, the global luxury industry, and I'm not including travel or experience in this, I'm not including cars, but just hard luxury goods, which is who we compete with, that has grown 3.5 times in the last 14, 15 years. Global GDP has doubled in that time. And yet we as an industry have only grown 50%. And most of that lag has happened in the last 10 years. that's there. So we have, what you said is in terms of us underperforming is absolutely right. And the reason why we've underperformed is a lot of what you said earlier on. We are a generic product category mostly, and without the investment, without the building that diamond dream, we have underperformed the market. And to prove that point, if you look at the luxury diamond jewelry brands who have invested in the market, they have performed in line with and actually beaten the luxury goods in total. So diamond jewelry is clearly is wanted, is desirable, but we have to speak to this consumer in the right language. And I believe, and I hope that you and the audience agrees that what you're seeing from the Natural Diamond Council is a new language. It's a new way of speaking. The engagement and the statistics we're seeing, traffic to our website around the world that I showed earlier on is around 150 times greater than it was when we were before the Natural Diamond Council. Our engagement on our social media platforms are around 100 times greater. So I believe that this new language we're speaking is the right language for us to be able to compete with those luxury, with that luxury audience. I'm even going to be as bold as to say I think this industry should be double the size that it is if we get it right. And getting it right includes investment, and investment by everybody, just not just our members. So one of our big challenges is how do we invest in this industry? But I think this industry should be double the size that it is. And I think this industry could be 50% bigger in the next 5 years if we get it right. And so, and whereas I used to think I was the optimist in the industry, and everyone thinks I'm crazy because that's not, you don't understand our industry, that's not possible. The more I'm here, I think I'm the realist in the industry. And if you look at the data, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the engagement, if you look at the performance of everything, in the small way that we've done it so far, to get the massive increase in engagement levels tells me that if we get this right, if between us we figure this out, this industry's got huge potential. And for me, it excites me every day, the potential for it. I know that I'm dealing with an industry that has come off more challenging times and is therefore likely to be more pessimistic about it. But the consumer loves diamond jewelry, and the new consumer, my apologies, the new consumer loves diamond jewelry. It's just that we're competing now with technology, iPhones, luxury goods, travel and experiences when that can come back. Our competition is that much tougher than it was at the height of this industry. But if we get it right and we speak to this audience in the right way, there is undoubtedly massive opportunity ahead of us. Probably the biggest, I know it's crazy to say, probably one of the biggest potential growth industries out there is diamond jewelry. And again, it's because luxury goods have maximized over the last 15 years, and are getting towards being commoditized. We have the potential, we have more gap and more space ahead of us to grow than pretty much any other industry. So I'm not saying I have all the answers to figure that out, because investment is a key part of that, and partnership is part of that. But my feeling is that the potential lies, the consumer potential is there. It's up to us as an industry whether we can come together to realize that potential. So the good news is I feel that it's within our power to realize that potential. It's not down to another force that's out with our control.
So what you're saying is all the, let's say, irrationality and non-linearness that had kind of not worked for us in the past can actually, push us into, profits or value addition that we've never seen before through smart branding, storytelling, smart retail. This is what you're saying.
Yes, well, one of the many experiences I had with when I was in Mumbai, I think December and in February, March, was how many people took me to one side and said, David, we've got these challenges. Can you help us with these challenges? And I said, look, respectfully, no, I can't, because my focus has to be on the consumer. The consumer buys more diamond jewelry, 95% of the challenges and issues within the industry go away. Yeah. So if we just focus on the consumer and building the business, then those challenges go away. I mean, I always say, look, in an industry that's tough, no one makes margin in a tough industry. Declining industries, unless it's a cash cow that everyone knows is going to disappear, doesn't make margin. So industries that grow make margin, and we collectively have to come together and say this is the potential of this industry, and say this is the potential. Let's all come together. Let's grow this. Let's have this conversation. I think pretty much my conversation with everybody over the next 2 or 3 years is going to be how do we invest more? How do we build this? Because I believe we've got the right platforms now, the right story, the right insight. It's now about, how big can we make this thing?
That's great. I mean, that's a great positive kind of note to kind of end this session. It's been fantastic. It's been engaging. Your insights have been fabulous. Thank you so much, David. On a lighter note, the chairman wants to know, is there any plan for an Indian brand ambassador?
Okay, so the backstory is that your chairman always wants to know who our ambassador is. Every question is always, but I don't want to know all the strategy. I just want to know who the ambassador is, and then we'll talk about the strategy. So we'll have that conversation privately if it's okay, Milan.
Okay, all right, David. Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone, and have a great night. And hope this was fun for you guys as much as it was for me.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Good night.